heavy drinker. And when I say I'm not a heavy drinker, I mean I'm not big on alcohol. So yeah, let's jump into my history of alcoholic beverages. So here in Australia, the drinking age is legalized at 18 years old. So obviously, when I turned 18, that was my sort of first foray into alcohol in general. I mean, when you're a kid and you go to like family gatherings, like barbecues and dinners and all that sort of stuff, you do tend to be given like a sip of your parents' drinks or the adult drink that you were always so curious about whenever you do go to those kind of gatherings. And you'll be the one drinking on the soft drinks or the cordials or the juice or the water, and then you look over to the adults table and you see the adults drinking something completely different, and you're like, oh, I want to try that too. So that was inevitable. I did obviously get to try a little bit of beer when I was a kid. Obviously, as a child, your taste buds are so different back then. So when I did try beer for the first time, it wasn't a great experience. Definitely put on that sour face whenever, like I winced a lot whenever I got to sip the beer. But I didn't quite like beer. But what kid did, honestly? But yeah, so turned 18 and I asked my dad if he could buy some alcohol for my 18th birthday party. So I held my own little 18th birthday party at home, and I invited over some friends. And the one alcohol that my dad decided to buy me, because he thought it's not really that not too risky, and especially being at home, he can monitor the situation, all that sort of stuff. And the fact that he was the one going out to buy it, so he could limit the amount that was being bought. So he ended up getting some vodka cruisers for the party. And that was my first foray into alcohol. Vodka cruisers is what we here in Australia like to call lolly water. It is just straight up sweet, a sweet drink. So, the flavors vary from different fruit flavors, from like raspberry and, your strawberry, like all your berry flavors, or your citrus flavors, or even like your passion fruits and mangoes and whatever, mixed with vodka, essentially. So it was that was all it was. It was just vodka and a fruit mixer of sorts. And that for us was like the best thing ever. But nowadays it's known as lolly water. It's what you usually, if you're starting off with spirits, it's usually where you begin. Or at least that's where I began. I don't know where everybody else began. A lot of people, it really depends. A lot of people start with beer. I started with vodka cruisers. So that's kind of where my beverage experience in alcohol started. So we went from vodka cruisers into another brand called UDL. I'm not sure if it's available outside of Australia or New Zealand, but UDLs are similar to vodka cruisers, the only difference being that they come in cans, and they're also vodka plus a mixer of sorts. But those ones, I think those ones were a little bit more, the alcohol content was a little bit higher compared to the vodka cruisers. So there was a bit more alcohol in it compared to the vodka cruisers. And so back then, UDLs definitely were the stereotypical drink for certain people of that generation. Let's just say, not really that generation, but more so of that age group. Essentially, it's kind of where a lot of the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern sort of people would generally start drinking those those types of alcohol, pre-mixed drinks, around between like the ages of 18 and 21. It's kind of what a lot of us used to always drink. I don't know if they still do, but that's my experience with it. So I started off with the vodka cruises and the UDLs, and to sort of round off that sort of time frame, when I got to about the age of 20 and 21, I wanted to venture into the wines, but I knew that wine was you have to have a particular palate for wine, and especially and because the wines also vary in their vintage, in their where they're from, and how it's been aged and all that sort of stuff. For me, getting into wine was an interesting experience because for me, I started off really sweet. So for me, it was Moscato, which is a very, very sweet sort of a dessert wine. And it's definitely one that it's a white wine, to sort of clarify. So it's a white, sweet dessert wine that I really enjoyed drinking back then. It was pretty much my go-to wine. It was, I tried back then, my palate wasn't refined enough to really respect and enjoy other types of wine. So for me, it was more of because I've got such a sweet tooth as well, Moscato was like the best option for me in terms of wine to sort of get myself into wine. And so Moscato, I think I drank that for quite a while. I drank it for a few years before I decided that I wanted to try some other wines as well. My best friend works for a liquor store known as Dan Murphy's here in Australia. And she said that I would probably enjoy the Sauvignon Blancs, which is, I think, like the step up from drinking the Moscato. It's a bit more, it's not as sweet, but it's definitely, it's still a white wine. And when I did try it, it was a little bitter, but once I started getting used to the flavor of the actual wine itself, I did actually enjoy the Sauv Blancs for quite some time, and I still do if I do end up somewhere like a restaurant or something, and they were serving Sauv Blancs as a wine option, then that's probably what I would generally gravitate towards. When it comes to red wines was a little bit harder for me to get into, let's just say. There was a particular type of red wine which was also very sweet. My dad was a big fan of a brand called Lambrusco, so I'm not quite sure if it's available everywhere, but that is a very sweet wine. It also came in a cask, so my dad could then pour it straight into the cup from the fridge. I'm just going to do a quick search into red wines. It was so there's that's right. Okay, so there's a brand name by the name of Brown Brothers here in Australia. So there's I think it's a winery. Yeah, there's a winery here by the name of Brown Brothers, and they make not only do they make Moscato, which is the sweet variety of the white wine, they also make a sweet variety of red wine. And the red wine that I really, really love from Brown Brothers is called Sienna with a C. And my goodness, that is like one of my favorite sweet red wines. Haven't had it in quite some time, to be honest, but it is definitely a go-to sweet red wine if I really just felt like just having just something sweet but wine option. And I would definitely recommend it if you're not big on wines per se. Moscato and the Sienna red wine, it's because they're a lot sweeter in their flavor. It makes it feel like you're not technically drinking wine, even though you are. Well, at least for me, it didn't really feel like I was drinking wine. It felt like I was drinking something else entirely. But it was still really nice, and the flavors were great. And yeah, it's kind of where I sort of began my journey into drinking wine. I did sort of try other sorts of wine. So moving on from drinking just sweet wine into the different varieties. Like I said, I've gotten into drinking the Sauvignon Blancs. I did start getting myself in the red wine side of things, the Cab Savs. So they were actually a little bit harder to get into for me because I wasn't really huge on red wines as I was with white. White wines are easier for me to drink because they're not like, even though some of them can be a bit dry, like a Chardonnay, Champagne, they're more sparkling wines. I'm not huge on sparkling wines. Sparkling wines, I'll drink if it's apart from like at a special occasion or event like a wedding, or if it's like a New Year's party or something like that. But other than that, I tend not to drink sparkling wines very often. Prosecco is actually not so bad. I don't mind Prosecco. That's actually a really nice sparkling wine. But in terms of venturing over to the more full-bodied sort of flavored red wines, Cab Sav was definitely one of those ones where, depending on the winery, depending on the branding, they all had their own version of what the Cab Sav flavor would be. And because, like I said at the beginning with wines, depending on the winery, how they're grown, where they're grown, how they're stored, and everything that goes with making the wine, everyone is going to be different. Every winery is going to be different when they make their wines. So the flavors are going to vary everywhere. Doesn't matter which one you get. So Cab Savs were definitely sort of a good starting point for me before I moved into I didn't really move away from the Cab Sav as much. I think Cab Sav is still something that I would prefer to drink over the other red wines. Like I've tried Merlot, and I've tried what were some of the other branding of red wines. I'm just trying to think of them in my head, but I'm also bringing them up on a website. Shiraz. Shiraz is, that's another one that I'm not quite interested in too much. Cab Sav is definitely my definite go-to. Pinot Noirs can be a little bitter for me, maybe a bit too much for my liking. But yeah, I think out of all of the variations of red wine before going into all of the what do you call them, the evolution of red wine has changed so much, and I can never keep up with it all. Not that I have for a long time. I'm actually not I'm not a big drinker of alcohol at all. And here I am doing an episode on the podcast about alcohol. Go figure. But yeah, my go-to red wine is definitely a Cab Sav. If I really feel like I want to have a red wine, Cab Sav is definitely the one I will gravitate towards the most. Same goes with the white wines. Generally, a Sauvignon Blanc is what I would probably gravitate towards when it comes to white wine. So yeah, I mean, I don't really drink as much wine as I used to back in my early 20s. I'm sounding old now. Back in my day. And so moving on from the wines, while I was sort of testing out the waters, as it were, with wine, I was also testing out my palate with different types of beer. And there, oh my gosh, like there are so many different breweries that make beer. There are so many variations of beer. Honestly, to be honest though, before I actually went into beer itself, my friend, who I said works at a liquor store, suggested that I start with a cider. And most of the ciders that I actually did drink, or, when I first started drinking ciders, I was more so like I was with the vodka cruisers, sweet tooth. I was into the sweeter flavored ciders, like a Summersby apple or a Summersby pear cider. They were really good. Any sweet ciders that I came across were definitely my go-tos. I think I still gravitate towards sweet ciders more so now than I did back then, or it just hasn't changed, and I just prefer sweet ciders in general. Recorderlig is another one of those really sweet flavored ciders, kind of like the vodka cruisers, where it's like lolly water. Recorderlig was the lolly water of ciders. It was like the sweetest cider you will ever drink. It was almost like drinking soft drinks or soda. And it was like the best thing. And those Recorderlig bottles were always they were in volume, they were a lot bigger compared to other varieties or other brands of cider. And Recorderlig was definitely one of, like, it just sounds, Recorderlig, the name itself just sounds like it's going to be really sweet, because for me, when I hear the word Recorderlig, I then think about cordial. Cordial is sweet, and so Recorderlig to me is a sweet drink. So definitely something that I like. I don't drink Recorderligs anymore. I've definitely gone off drinking Recorderlig or any of those types of sweet ciders, just because it's just too sweet for me now. My palate has definitely evolved since then, and even though I do still drink a Summersby apple or a Summersby pear cider, Summersby being the actual brewery name, I still drink those, but they're more crisp and refreshing compared to what Recorderlig is. And Recorderlig is just straight up sweet, just sweet flavored ciders. And they're not only apple flavored or pear flavored ciders. They do all sorts of different flavored ciders. So they'll do like berry flavored ones. They'll do ones that have different sort of fruits and spices. But it still comes out so sweet. And it was so good. It was so good back then. And I really enjoyed Recorderlig in my 20s. But as I said, my palate has evolved. It is now a bit more refined. I do not go back to those Recorderligs, although if I do now, I feel like I would have a hard time trying to finish even one bottle, let alone the few that I did back then, because I loved it so much. So ciders were definitely where I kind of started my foray into wanting to try beer. But even then, back in my 20s, I wasn't huge on beer, early 20s mostly, because I was so into the sweet flavored drinks. Beer for me was just too bitter, and my palate just wasn't refined enough to get used to it, because it was so used to drinking sweet alcohols rather than, just every other version of. So when it came to trying to get into beer, my friend got me to try different variations of cider that was similar in terms of flavor profile. Although it was still a cider and you could still taste like the apple flavor in it, and it was still a bit more refreshing. There were some ciders that did have a bit of a bitter note to them as well. And then it sort of so my friend got me into drinking some pale ales. She said that's a really good starting point for anyone who's, trying beer for the first time. Lager's probably the more easier option, because that's like the low tier of beer before moving into like the more higher quality type when you're going up the scale of different types of beer. So lagers were definitely where I sort of began, like your Coronas, and I think there was another beer that here in Australia that we are well known for. Heineken. I think Heineken's also one of those types of lagers that you can sort of get into as well. But from there, I think I was drinking, when I started drinking beer, it was more so Coronas, because then I could add the lemon to the beer itself and be like, okay, well, at least there's a bit more to it than just straight up drinking the beer itself. They add some lemon to it, make it fancy. So moving away from the lagers, my friend, got me to try pale ales. And pale ales have a bit more hops to them. There's a bit more body to the pale ale compared to lager. Lager is a bit more watered down, in my opinion, whereas lagers have a bit more to it. There's a bit more flavor to it, and I don't mind pale ales. Pale ales are great. There's a brewery called James Squire who do really great pale ales. They've also there's even a James Squire bar here in the CBD of Melbourne that I've had. I've actually hosted my birthday party one year over there, which I really like. They have like good event spaces that you can hire out for the night and all that sort of stuff. So James Squire is great. It's kind of like a pub, but it's not. So it's a really great space, and it's a very great venue. And the beer, they've got so many different beers on tap. It was great. It was amazing. So James Squire Pale Ale. They've got different varieties of pale ale, but I can't really think of all of them. The one that I did like, I believe, was called 50 Lashes Pale Ale, and that was one of my favorite pale ales to go to. I'm pretty sure I've had other types of beer as well. I think I may have tried an IPA at one point, but I wasn't a huge fan of the flavor of IPA. And so I think what else have I tried? I've also tried stout beer, like a Guinness, which I have a story for you about Guinness later on, and I will get to that in a moment. I will get to that soon. Guinness was also another one of those types of beers that I didn't think I would enjoy, but I kind of did. I do like a Guinness, like a nice pint of Guinness. I will definitely drink that. And yeah, I don't think I didn't go too far into the beer side of things. I think I mostly sort of stuck with my wines and my ciders, and some of the spirits. Back then, I was huge on vodka. Vodka was my go-to spirit. I may have tried other spirits as well, but vodka was my go-to. Even if I went out, clubbing for the night, It would always be vodka with whatever mixer, like a vodka raspberry lemonade or a vodka. I don't think I did vodka cranberry, to be honest. Wasn't a huge fan of the cranberry juice for some reason, so I didn't do that. I do cocktails that involve vodka in it as well, like a screwdriver or I don't know, any other cocktail that might have had vodka in it. Cocktails is a whole other story. That's a whole other conversation we can have another day. I'm not going to be going into cocktails today. I feel like there's too many variations in cocktails that could go on forever. So let's just say I do like cocktails. Cocktails are great. It really depends on the mixes and the alcohols that are used. But most of the time for me, it was generally vodka-based cocktails. So yeah, that was kind of like where I was going with those. And sort of going out of all of the ciders and the beers, getting away from the bubbly stuff, I started venturing into whiskeys and rums in my mid-20s. So showing my age here, this was probably about maybe 10-ish years ago, maybe a little bit further out. So yeah, I started jumping into some whiskeys and rums. In terms of the rum, I didn't really drink white rum. I don't think white rum was my thing. I didn't really like white rum. I preferred the spiced rum. Spiced rum had nice flavor to it, and I was able to mix it with like the darker sort of mixes. Generally with the dark rums, I think the only one that I really tried and really enjoyed was a label called Sailor Jerry. They've got a really great spice rum, and I really enjoyed their rum the most. That one I would tend to drink with Coke. And then I think another one that I may have tried, but I just don't remember much of, was Kraken. Kraken was also a spice rum that I didn't mind. That's a nice flavored rum as well. And obviously I would drink that with Coke as well. I think that's really all I went with the rum side of things. I then sort of ventured out into the whiskey or the whiskey side of the alcohols. I've been trying, I was trying out some different things. So Dan Murphy's was holding their own little whiskey tasting session in store, where they set up. They had like a table set up. They had palate cleansers in the middle, and they had we got to try about 5 or 6 different flavored whiskeys. There was quite a few whiskeys that were very heavy on the smoke. It's very smoky flavored whiskeys. I think there was one smoky one that I did like, and I'm pretty sure I still have a bottle of, because I don't really, as I said, I don't drink much. So it's still sitting in my stash. And it's a French one. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a French whiskey that has a very smoky note to it, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I could actually drink that one straight on the rocks, and I didn't actually mind that. I feel like I need to go back and maybe jump back into drinking whiskeys again. Oh boy. Let's not go there right now. Anyway. So I tried a few different, I got to try a few different whiskeys, one of them being this French whiskey. There was a few other ones there. It wasn't just whiskeys. It was also Scotch whiskey. It was Irish whiskey. There were also whiskey liqueurs as well, which I didn't mind. There were actually a couple of different
whiskey liqueurs there that I really liked. One of them that I picked up from that tasting session was an Irish whiskey liqueur by the name of the Dubliner, and I still have that bottle as well. So it's the same age as the French whiskey bottle I bought, because I bought it the same day. The whiskey liqueur called Dubliner, it's got like a really nice honeycomb flavor. Again, sweet tooth. Keep that in mind. I really love my sweet beverages. So yeah, the Dubliner is actually really nice. I like having the Dubliner. Sometimes I had it with Coke. There were also times where I would have it with a different mixer, but I've forgotten what they might have been. I think it might have been like soda or something like that. But in saying that, half the time I would actually drink the Dubliner straight on the rocks, same as that French whiskey. I could definitely, because it's so sweet, you don't really need to mix it with anything else. You could just drink it straight. So I really enjoyed it. And yeah, there were a few other ones that I got to try, but I don't remember the names of them right now off the top of my head, and I don't really remember much of them, but a lot of them did have quite a bit of excuse the helicopter flying over my house. A lot of them did have quite a lot of like a smoky flavor to them. There were some that weren't so bad. I think there was a Japanese whiskey that I didn't mind, but I didn't end up buying it then, purely because the other two sort of won me out more so compared to that one. But when we did have this session, obviously there was someone there who was guiding us through and explaining what you could have these particular drinks with, what kind of meals, if you could mix them with anything with a type of mixer, or if you wanted to add something to it, like if you wanted to make a cocktail or something. So they were actually really good in that respect with this whole session, with this whiskey tasting. And it kind of wanted me to try different, like go out of my way of trying and going to other tours. But I didn't do very much here in Australia. So in 2018, I traveled over to the UK and Ireland, and I did a 3-week, I think it was like a 2-week tour where I was in London for, a few days at the start and a few days at the end before coming home. And so on the tour itself, there were stops along the way where we would stop at some of the distilleries. So when we were in Scotland, we ended up stopping at a Glengoyne distillery, where we got to tour the actual distillery, the factory. The guide would tell us the process of how they make their Scotch whiskies over there, and then how it's barreled up and the process and the waiting process and all that sort of stuff. And it was very interesting tour. And the fact that the waters that they use to make their whiskies is locally sourced, and the whiskey just tasted really nice. So if you do ever catch yourself in a liquor store and you find Glengoyne in there, I would definitely recommend it. It is a Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. So it is good quality. It is a good quality Scotch whiskey. I did end up buying myself one of those miniature bottles so that I could bring it home. But I ended up bringing home an 18-year-old bottle. But now, and that was 18, the label says 18 years that year. So when I was there in 2018, so obviously this was bottled in 2000, and so 2018, 2024 now, which means it is no longer 18 years old. It is 24 years old. And I still haven't opened it. It's still in the bottle. I haven't cracked into it yet. Maybe this is a good time
for me to jump into my now 24-year-old Glengoyne Scotch whiskey. But while we were also in Scotland, we did stop over somewhere before heading, because we were heading out to a ferry port where we were going to travel over to I think it was Northern Ireland. So we ferried over to Northern Ireland. But before we went there, there was a stopover between the hotel we were staying at in, I think it was not Edinburgh, Glasgow. So we were traveling between Glasgow and the ferry port to go over to Northern Ireland. And we stopped over somewhere to, obviously, for relief, to get out of the coach and just sort of, and then go to the bathroom and whatever. There was also a gift shop. And in this gift shop, they were also selling Scotch whiskies, whiskey liqueurs and all that sort of stuff. And I came across this one malt whiskey liqueur that, because we were allowed to actually, they allowed us to taste the different whiskeys they had in the gift shop. And I tasted this malt whiskey liqueur by the name of Browder. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And it's so nice. It's a sweet. It's a liqueur, so it's going to be sweet. It has a very sort of a honey flavored to it. It also, on the label, it says that it's a unique flavor of honey and sloe berries. I'm not sure what a sloe berry is, but that's what they've got here. But yeah, it's a sweet malt whiskey liqueur. I really like it. I still haven't finished it. I think my friend did tell me and recommend to me that I think with liqueurs you're supposed to drink. Oh, I can't remember what it is. Hold on a second. I'm gonna do a quick little Google search. How long can I keep whiskey? Can't spell. Whiskey liqueur in the fridge? I don't know if it's in the fridge, but okay, so whiskey doesn't expire necessarily, but it does lose flavor and elements after it's opened. After opening, you have as long as 2 years or as few as 6 months or less to drink it before it goes bad. Okay, well, mine's gone a little bit longer than that. 2018, 2024, it's been 6 years and I still haven't finished it. Yay. I think it's still okay. I tasted it. It's fine. I could still drink it if I really wanted to. Probably the same thing as the Dubliner. It's probably going to have the same issue. I may have to check on that one. Anyway, yeah, I'm not great at, drinking all of my alcohol. Not great. They just keep sitting there. There was a time I ended up buying, so I had a bottle of Midori, which is a watermelon flavored liqueur. And yeah, I barely drank half of that bottle. And it was the smallest bottle before going to the miniature. I think it was like a 500 or a 700 ml bottle. I think it was a 700 ml bottle. I think it was the smallest one I could buy that wasn't a miniature. And yeah, I barely drank half of that bottle. And I had to tip it out because the top started crystallizing and the flavor wasn't the greatest. And especially because that one itself specifically, it's not a whiskey of any kind. It is a spirit liqueur and mostly sugar. So it was gonna go bad at some point. So ended up having to tip that one out, unfortunately. And this is why I don't go out of my way to buy alcohol very often, because half the time I'm still trying to get through my stash. But yeah, so going back to my UK and Ireland trip,
So yeah, so I bought a bottle of that the malt whiskey liqueur. Brought it home safely. Thankfully, I was so worried that it was going to break in my luggage at some point, but I managed to protect it and wrap it up in all of my clothes so that it wouldn't break. But yeah, so we got over to Ireland. Now, Northern Ireland, we didn't do too much because we weren't there for very long. But we did then move into and travel down to the Republic of Ireland. And we ended up staying down in quite a few of the cities there, including Dublin, which is the capital city. And in Dublin, they have a Irish whiskey museum, which was pretty cool. It was one of the optional places that we could visit on our days off from the tour, if we if we decided that we wanted to do our own thing. That was a recommended place to check out, and I went with a few other of the tour members, and we went to the Irish Whiskey Museum, and our tour started at 10 a.m. Oh, by the way, the Glengoyne tour also was around the 10 a.m. start point, and we got to try the different types of Scotch whiskey. So it was the same thing down in Dublin when we went into the Irish Whiskey Museum, and we got to. It was a little bit of a tour. It was a smaller place because it was more of a museum than it was a distillery, but we got the opportunity to taste different types of Irish whiskies while we were there as part of the tour, I suppose. But it was more of a tasting session, to be honest, because we didn't really move very far. We just went from one room to another, and that was pretty much it. But we got a good rundown of where a lot of their Irish whiskies, came from, including Jameson and a few others. And yeah, it was actually a really cool experience. I did also pick up another miniature bottle of Irish whiskey while I was there. That one, I believe, was called Power, I think. Give me a second. Irish whiskey. What is it? Power? Yeah, Power. Irish whiskey. So Powers. Powers is an Irish whiskey label and that I actually got the opportunity to also taste. And I brought back a miniature bottle of that. But that one I was more intrigued about because the guide that was going through the whiskies with us told us that we could use it to make our own version of an Irish coffee. So, meaning you make your coffee and then you add your Powers whiskey into it, and boom, you have a great tasting Irish coffee. And I tried that. It was so good. Oh my goodness. Irish coffee. Get on it, people. If you got yourself some Irish whiskey, dump a bit of that into your coffee and you're good to go. But yeah, so that one, that particular bottle is long gone because I actually did drink it at one point in my coffee. But yeah, so that was a really cool experience to learn a lot more about, the way that Irish whiskies were made and where they're from and all that sort of stuff. While we were in Dublin, of course, one of the parts of the tour itself was actually not the Irish Whiskey Museum tour, but just the tour that I was on while I was in Ireland. We got to go to the Guinness Storehouse, which is where Guinness is made, and it is also a very big tourist attraction where a lot of people go. It's a massive. It's kind of like a museum distillery in one, essentially. It's huge. It's like a huge factory, but the front end of this venue is the museum side of things, where you get to learn the history about Guinness. There's quite a few interactables in there as well, which was really cool. And there was also a place where if you lined up, because I think this is one of the most popular activities at the Guinness Storehouse, was you get to pour your own pint of Guinness, and then you get to drink it. Like, how cool is that? And you get a certificate to say that you know how to pour your own Guinness. Can you see where I'm going with this? I am now I'm not qualified, but I have a certificate that says that I have been able to pour my own Guinness. The only reason why I say that, and the only reason why I find it funny, but to be honest, there is an actual technique to pouring Guinness from the tap specifically. It wasn't out of the can. It was out of a tap. And it was actually a really cool experience. Like, they teach you the way that you're supposed to hold the glass, and then how close it needs to be or how far it needs to be from the tap when you start pouring. And they'll tell you when you need to, start moving the glass into a specific position so that once it gets to a certain point, and especially because when you first start pouring Guinness, what happens is it doesn't go into that dark brown color straight away. It actually just looks very light in color when you're first pouring it. So what you need to do once you've poured it, you actually need to let it sit and settle for it to have, create that foam at the top. And it was just so fascinating to see this, to see the whole process of it. And then just the experience of being able to pour your own Guinness from a tap. Like, you don't get to do that in any pub you go to. They do it for you. They're like, here you go. It's already ready to go. You don't really need to do anything. And not everybody actually has their own tap installed at home. So this was for me like a once in a lifetime experience, unless I go back again at some point. I don't know. And it was really fascinating. So yeah, I mean, if you are in Dublin, I do highly recommend that you go and check out the Guinness Storehouse. It's actually really cool. There's even a massive gift shop at the end of the whole tour itself. So when you get to the end of it, there is a massive store that has Guinness branded everything, including hockey jerseys. You have no idea how badly I wanted to get a hockey jersey with the Guinness branding on it. Unfortunately, I actually didn't have enough money to do that, and I was nearing the end of the tour. It was also, I think it was like the final week of the tour itself. So I was running out of money pretty quick. And I really, really wanted this Guinness hockey jersey. And when I got back home to Melbourne, I looked it up on the website, and it's on their online website, but unfortunately they don't ship it. I don't think they ship it outside of Europe, which is really sad. Although I haven't checked in a while, I could potentially go back and see if they've still got it available. But man, I kind of regret not having the money to be able to buy that jersey. I really wanted it so bad. It looked really cool. But yeah, anyways, moving along from going there, let me tell you all about my current alcoholic beverage journey. Nowadays, I am more so. Again, I'm not a big drinker. I've been saying this throughout this whole episode. I still have a stash of different alcohols. I do have now. I have a little collection of gin. I've been drinking a lot more gin lately. I've been seeking out gins in the last few years because I've been really enjoying the different types of gins. Because gin and tonic is so refreshing for me. And I can definitely, that for me is kind of like when I first started drinking vodka. That was because vodka was my first spirit. I really enjoyed vodka with whatever mixer. Now I'm more so into different types of gin because again, different variations of gin with different flavor profiles, and a lot of them can taste like very very berry heavy. Some of them can be very heavy on the like on the herbs. Some of them can be citrusy. So it really depends on, again, the label, the distillery that you end up getting them from. The ones that I've been really enjoying lately has been, so there's a Japanese brand called Roku, and Roku in Japanese means 6. So this is Rokujin. So this is 6 gin. And it's really nice. That one was also, gifted to me, or actually handed to me from my friend who works at the liquor store. She's like, I've had this for a little while. I'm having a hard time getting through it. I'm not a really big fan of it, but if you want it, you can have the rest of it. So I got the rest of her Rokujin and I still have it, and it's really nice. Another one that I would say that I really liked, and I have actually surprisingly managed to get through, was Tanqueray. So Tanqueray gin is a really good one. Really enjoyed that. The bottles itself look really nice. Like, it's got a really nice green bottle, and the shape of the bottle is really cool too. So I did like that. So Tanqueray gin is another good one. I have in my time tried Bombay Sapphire. Bombay Sapphire is quite nice. Not the biggest fan of it, but it's more so, Bombay Sapphire is more on the, I'm going to say on the cheaper end of gins. So if you're looking for that, or maybe a Gordon's London Dry, they're also not so bad if you're looking for just a cheap gin, but still has an okay flavor to them. I'd say Bombay Sapphire is a little bit better than Gordon's. Tanqueray is going up in the tier of quality, so that's also a good quality gin there. Another one that I find really nice is Hendrick's. Hendrick's is a good gin as well. I did end up, so my friend recommended that I get a particular type of Hendrick's gin. And if I'm correct in, I'm just trying to find, I don't think they make them anymore, or it's maybe just not available to buy anymore. But there's one particular Hendrick's gin that has a very sort of a floral heavy note, very floral, very I think like has an elderflower sort of a flavor, I think. And it comes in a really nice purple bottle. I don't think it's available anymore. Hold on. I think there was let me just double check what is it? Hendrick's gin purple bottle, I think it was. Oh, the Midsummer. Okay, so it's called the Midsummer Solstice Gin. So the Hendrick's Midsummer Solstice Gin. And that one I still have, and I'm trying to savor because Dan Murphy's no longer stocks it. And I don't think very many other, actually, do they or don't they? I'm not quite, no, doesn't look like they do. It is on their website, but it's just not coming up with, it's a limited release. So it only comes out every so often. They don't, and because it's distilled and bottled in Scotland, they don't always bring it out very often. But it's a very nice flavored gin. I really like it. It's just got really nice botanical flavor, summery, and I do really enjoy that. So I'm trying to savor that one as much as possible. There is another gin that I really like at the moment, that I'm kind of been sort of testing the waters with, and it's called Heathcote's Gin. and I got the London Dry variety. I think this one's I think it's Victorian, based here in Victoria. I'm just gonna, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of typing and googling, because that's just Founders Gin. Sorry, Heathcote Founders Gin. That one, I think, where is it? I think it's made here in Melbourne. I can't remember. Uh, yeah, Victoria. So it is a Victorian gin, here in Australia. And it's, yeah, the one that I've been drinking, Heathcote Founders Gin. Again, very let me just, you know what, rather than me trying to explain it to you, because I have a hard time with words, I'll just read the about this product description to you all. Founders Gin is a delicious, delicately balanced gin with juniper forward notes and a citrus sweet lemon myrtle, giving an orange sweetening refreshness. It's thoroughly enjoyable neat with tonic, and of course as a mixer. So I do really enjoy the Heathcote Founders. It's actually really nice. I'm not sure whether it'll be available overseas, but if you do come across it at one point and you do like gin, Heathcote Founders Gin is a nice one to try if you like those kind of flavor notes. I think there was one other gin that I have that I kind of like at the moment. What am I drinking right now? I know there's one available. I'm racking my brains. Give me a minute. I'm going to go check my stash. No, I was wrong. That was all. They're the only gins that I have in my stash. I think my brain was thinking about the other thing that's in there that isn't a gin, and that's Canadian Club whiskey. And that's another thing that I've been drinking a lot of, apart from, venturing into the different types of gin. I've been drinking Canadian Club a lot more. And I have that with dry ginger ale. So CC and dry, it's usually what I go with nowadays. If it's not that, it's a gin and tonic. And so I tend to sort of go between those particular two types of spirits at the moment. Trying to get myself to go back to drinking wine, because there was this one point where I bought something online. I bought some makeup online, and this particular makeup store sent out like a voucher in my order, and it was for a company called Naked Wines. Now, Naked Wines is a company that supports a lot of Australian wineries, like smaller wineries, to get their name out there, and also supports them with their wines, essentially. And Naked Wines is like a subscription-based service where you get I think it's like a dozen bottles of wine in a box. So you'll get 12 wines. You can either be 12 different red ones or 12 white wines, or you can have a mixture of both in this one box. And once a month, they actually send it out to you. So the order that I received from this makeup store gave us a voucher where we could get $100 off our first order with Naked Wines. And I was like, okay, well, why not? Let me give them a go. They're giving me $100 to spend on 12 bottles of wine, essentially, for the month. And not only is it giving me a chance to try different types of wine, it also, supports Australian wineries. And I think that's a really cool concept to have, to be able to give the community, the wine community, a bit more of a boost, to get their wine out there, to be noticed, and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of cool. So I tried it. I got my first box, and then I canceled my subscription because like I said, not a big drinker. So 12 wines for me is a lot. That is a lot of wine. I live with my parents. My parents don't drink. My mum doesn't drink at all. Like you put a glass of wine in front of her, she'll take a sip of it and then that'll be that. She won't touch the stuff. She won't touch any kind of alcohol, to be honest. My dad, however, he's also not a very big drinker either. So I think that's where I kind of get it from, the fact that my parents don't really drink as much. So I don't have that kind of the alcohol influence, which is good in a way because it just means that I'm not spending all my money on alcohol because I know how expensive it is. But they don't really drink wine. And I have a box of 12 that I got from Naked Wines. And I'm like, So I have actually managed to get through a few of them, quite a few of them actually. Not obviously in the same month. Like it has taken me a long time. I think I've still got a few bottles that I haven't touched yet. They're still sitting somewhere in a cupboard. I don't know if they're even good for me to drink anymore. Yeah. So, but I have also gifted some of those bottles away to friends as gifts for like birthdays and Christmases and all that sort of stuff because, again, I am not a big drinker. The wine is just sitting there. The bottles are collecting dust. I don't know what to do with them. I'd rather just give them away, considering the fact that I didn't really pay for them very much. I only paid like a small portion of that order plus delivery. That was that for me. I was like, that's cool. I don't mind. I can give it away as a gift. But I still have quite a few of those bottles. I might have to check on them, especially the red wine. White wine, I suppose, shouldn't be too bad. Red wine, however, can sediment. So I don't know whether it's going to be that great to drink anymore. So I might have to check on those. But yeah, so mostly sort of, if I do feel like something bubbly, it'll generally be a gin and tonic. Or maybe a CC and dry. If I feel like I want to have a wine, if it's gonna be a white wine, I need to know that I'm gonna be drinking that white wine like hours before, so that I can at least put it in the fridge to cool. Red wines, that's fine. I can just crack open into it, but I haven't really touched red wine in a very long time. I've also been gifted wine. As a thank you for doing voluntary work in theatre. And yeah, just I'm not a big drinker. I might have to get into those ones before they go off too, because they're more recent compared to the ones that I've actually bought. But yeah, I think that's probably, yeah, it's generally what I would usually drink. I don't usually go out of my way to drink a lot. I have sort of been going into the ciders a little bit if I feel like I want to have a cider. Most of the time it's not the sweet stuff that I used to drink. If I am going to drink a cider, it'll probably be the Summersby apple, although I do like the pear a lot more. The Summersby pear is quite nice. The apple one, they've got a few different variations of the apple cider. Like they've got a crisp apple, they've got an extra crisp apple, which is really refreshing. I really love it. And then they've got one that's a cloudy apple. I'm not huge on cloudy apple ciders, so for me, the crisp apple ciders are more my go-to. But I do also like the pear ciders. They're nice. I've also been looking out for different types of, distilled ciders from different labels. So not just Summersby, but like other ones. I did try one recently that was called, I believe, Tutti Frutti. So it had a fruity flavor to the cider. So it wasn't just apple. It was also I think it had some berry notes to it as well, which was actually not so bad. That was actually quite nice. And I also ended up getting myself non-alcoholic cider as well. purely because I like the flavor of cider, but I just don't want the effects of the alcohol. So the non-alcoholic ciders are actually a really good option. Like, I love the fact that you can actually find non-alcoholic versions of any alcohols lately. Like, I think they started with beer, and then wine started doing the same thing. So you get non-alcoholic wines and beers. Now you can get non-alcoholic spirits, which is amazing. Non-alcoholic ciders. So if you really do want to join in on the party, and even though you are maybe the designated driver, and if you're carpooling, or if you're you're going to be driving home, or you just don't want the same effects as what alcohol gives you, or maybe alcohol is actually, affects you physically, because, I know people who are allergic to alcohol. So I love the fact that you can still be part of the party and not have to worry about the effects of the alcohol, when you can find yourself a non-alcoholic version of these beverages, which is really cool. I really love that. But yeah, I think that's probably where I'm going to end the episode for today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Many Thoughts I Have. Tune in probably later down the track, where there might be another episode about beverages, but just it'll probably be by maybe hot beverages, maybe non-alcoholic beverages. Like, there is so many types of drinks out there, so I'll probably end up discussing drinks in another context later down the track. So hopefully you can tune in for that. If you'd like to check out more of my content or follow me on my socials, you can head over to foolishfuji.card.co. That's card with 2 R's, for all the links and more. That's it from me. Remember to look after yourself and your mental health, and happy thinking, friends.